Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. Today I'll show you how I made these two really cool necklace and earrings. Hey, welcome. So glad to see you. Welcome back or welcome. I'm going to show you a project today where you can use your scrap clay. I have a whole pile of scrap clay, so I really need to get to using it. But you can choose any colors that you want. I just chose these. Random colors that are kind of similar, greens and some pinks, some colors that look good together. While I'm kind of getting that all out and getting it chopped up, I do want to welcome everybody to my channel. So glad to see you. If you are new here, welcome. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. And to all the people that have been to my videos before, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here again. Leave me a comment below. Let me know how things are going. Let me know what projects you're working on, what sort of clay projects you like to do. Once you have it chopped up, you can do big, small. It's really whatever you please. Just make sure all of your pieces are kind of chopped up. Start working it into a square shape, just getting all of the pieces stuck together, no gaps in there. Clay throughout. And then just start gently rolling it to get everything stuck together. Just going to use my fingers and kind of push in the sides to get everything joined back together so that the piece doesn't come out really thin. Be sure to flip it over and do the same to the other side also. Once you have it to the thickness that you want, as you can see here, it's pretty thick. Just go ahead and start rolling it up into a tube shape. This will add a little bit of a swirl pattern to your clay. I love doing that. I love rolling and chopping. Once you get it rolled up, just start rolling it out. Makes a pretty pattern there inside. Just start rolling it, make sure everything's joined together, and hopefully you don't have any air bubbles in there. I've rolled mine out to about a finger's width length. And then just go ahead and chop off those messy ends and you can kind of see what it looks like inside there. Just adds a little something to your scrap clay instead of just chopping it up. I'm going to lay out just a piece of cloth, and then I have this smaller tile that I'm going to work on. The bottom of the tile is kind of rough, so it kind of scratches up my other tile, my larger tile, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to put the little piece of cloth in between the two. Basically, you're just going to want to start working it into a triangle shape, just using a little bit of force to pinch the top together. As you see here, just kind of working it all along the spine of the piece. And then also just a little trick for you. You can put a tissue blade on one side and then use your finger on the other and kind of press against it. And this will give you more of a crisp edge. And then as that gets worked into a really defined triangle shape, you can flip it over and then move your tissue blade to the other side and just keep going until you have all three of your points nice and pointed. I have rolled out some black clay really thin. You can use any color that you feel complements your piece. I've chosen black. I think it goes good with a lot of things. And then just roll up your triangle piece in your black clay or whatever color you have chosen to use. You do want it to be pretty thin. That's all I really recommend. And I have it all nice and wrapped. Just a little sneak preview there for you. See what it looks like. You want to cut your triangle strip there into little pieces. and make them all the same size. You can make them as long as you want. It just depends on how long you want your cane to be. And these are them. They're all cut. And now I will start placing them together. Just seeing how best they kind of fit together. Because I did it by my hands, they are not perfect triangles. And that is okay. So just kind of get everything together so that it forms and fits and looks good visually. And I have mine all stuck together here in my little triangle cane. Just using my fingers, pressing it in on the sides. I would just recommend doing this kind of slow and just with a little bit of pressure there. Just keep working it, trying to get all the pieces stuck together. And you can also reduce it down if you want your cane to be a little bit smaller. And this is mine. I'm going to cut it into 4 even pieces. So first I will make a mark in the very center and then one on each side of that so that I can cut mine into pretty much the same sized width pieces. I have my 4 pieces cut and I'm going to place them together. You can place yours together however you want to. You want to do green to green or pink to pink. That's kind of how my colors came out with my scrap clay there. But however you want it to visually look good, just place it together. And just use your fingers and gently start pushing it together. You could also place it on a piece of paper. Use your fingers to flatten. You can use a roller or a rolling pin or whatever you have. Just don't try to flatten it so much. Just trying to get all the pieces kind of stuck together at this point. And I didn't have a circle cutter that was the size that I wanted. So I walked all around my kitchen trying to find anything I possibly could that would provide me with a shape cutter. And I said, you know what, those spices in there, that's what I'll use. But it's a good impromptu. Just pick one that you can use your fingers to pop out the shape like that. Once you have your shape cut out. Gotta use what you gotta use. Can't be just buying a cutter for one project. And I'm going to use some water so that hopefully my cutter won't stick too much to my clay. And you'll see that it does stick a little bit, but it was actually really easy to pop out. So I just removed the baggie that I had. I didn't want it sticking to my work surface because that happens to me a lot. And then I have to remove my piece from my cutting block and then it distorts everything. Sad face. So this is my piece. Came out pretty good. Don't worry about any of the edges. You can always smooth those down with sanding. I have a cutter the size that I need for the center part. And I'm going to make sure it's even there all the way around and then cut out my shape. Trying to make sure that I don't have too much clay on one side so it comes out all lopsided. It actually came out pretty good. I got it in the center pretty well. Set that aside, and then with that circle I just cut out, I have a smaller circle. I'll cut out that inner shape, and I'm going to keep the inner piece that I cut out, and then the donut ring that was around it put aside for another project. So basically this is how it will kind of lay out. And of course I have a cat hair in there. My cat joins me for clay time. I'm going to make little marks inside the clay where I'm going to eventually make actual holes. I'm kind of spacing it out. I don't want to put the hole in there and then realize that I made it too close to the previous one. So I'm kind of just making a little dot and I'll see where I need to lay it out. And then I can come back through and put in the official holes. I did that to the big circle and the smaller circle, just trying to evenly space it. Since I did poke it all the way through, you can see itty bitty dots on the other side. So I'll flip it over and I'll push the hole through the other way so that I have a perfect hole all the way through so I can see from one side to the other. Place that on a piece of paper for now. And I have both my pieces. You can smooth out the edges now if you want, or after you bake them. Either way. Go ahead and bake them. I baked them and I smoothed out the outer ring and the inner ring on both front and back. And I did that with the small piece and the large piece. Alright, set that aside for now. I'm going to use this gold beautiful clay. This is the brand, and then it is just gold. So if you want to get that exact one, I'll leave a link below too for you if you want. Roll it out. You don't want it to be super thin, but you don't want it to be too thick either. Once you have it rolled out, take the two open ends and place them together, and then kind of pinch it together so that they are stuck together. Fold it in half and loop it back on itself again. So you basically have 4 strings side by side like that. And then one side has a loop, and that's the side that we're going to be using for our clay piece. You'll just wrap it behind the top part and up and over and behind on the bottom. And I did take a few minutes to kind of get it on there and situated how I wanted it to be. You do want a little bit left at the top because you're going to fold that back and over, and that is going to be what is used for making the hole where your necklace chain will sit through. This will also help give the piece a little bit more stability and also hold the little inner circle to the piece. Just kind of work that there. Just pull it. You can pull it a little bit to stretch it and then get it stuck so it's nice and firmly placed on there. And then just cut away right there where it kind of meets the top portion. So I just made a little mark, and then I'll put that off to the side and then make my official cut all the way through my clay. That way I get a nice perfect cut. You'll fold that top part down and back. Then just use your finger to kind of press it into place just a little bit. And the top part you can either pinch together, or like I'm going to do, just leave a little gap. Just thought that added a nice little something to the piece. And then you can place your center ring on there. And to get everything to kind of stick together, you can put a little bit of Bacon Bond in between your baked pieces and your wet clay pieces. And so that the top part does not collapse on itself, you can put a little wooden dowel or whatever you have through this top part, and that'll hold its shape while you bake it. And then the top part there, I made a boo-boo, and I didn't realize that I was going to have the gold back behind it. So I'm not going to be able to do what I wanted with those dots at the top. So I think it's the 3 top dots. I'm just going to take a little bit of that scrap clay and just sort of smear it into those holes, just those top 3, since I won't need those for the string that we'll put through there. And because it's scrap clay, you can't really tell that I even filled the holes or that there were ever even holes there. So it all worked out. And I did that with the small circle too. Some of those holes I won't need because the gold clay behind it is kind of covering it up. Go ahead and bake your piece. You'll just need some simple thread. You can use whatever color you have, whatever you want. This is just a black color. And then I just put it through the needle. And if you have a better pattern that you want to make out of the string, by all means do that. I didn't come up with a super creative way of making some brilliant pattern, just kind of stringing it through there. You do want to leave a good amount of the string there at the end, and that'll be for tying off in the very end. So I'm just kind of wrapping it around, trying to get it out of my way, but just be sure to leave a little bit of string there at the end, and that way it doesn't pull all the way through when you pull your yarn needle all the way through the hole. So there are more holes on the outer ring than there are in the inner. So you'll have to count how many you have on the outer one and how many you have on the inner, so you can kind of like evenly put them into the holes. So I think mine was like 5 outer ring holes to 1 inner ring hole. But however yours comes out, you might have fewer or more holes, so you'll just kind of have to calculate that. You basically go through one time all the way from the top to the bottom, and then you're going to go back through one time from the bottom to the top. And I think this added a lot to the piece. You can see the string a whole lot better, and the pattern that it makes a whole lot better, and it also will help with the stability of the pendant. So I'm going to go back through one time from the bottom back to the top, doing exactly the same pattern that I did on my way down. Once you get all the way back to the top, you'll just come through the very last hole. Make sure that your string is pulled pretty tight, both from the first tail and the ending tail. Just make sure everything's really tight in there. And then go ahead and tie it into as many knots as you feel is necessary. I think I did like 3 knot holes. Just go through. And if you have a little bit of slack in the end, you can always pull the string and it'll kind of get absorbed through the other strings so it doesn't look all loose. And then just cut off any excess. And you'll do the same thing to the other side, or you don't have to. It looks kind of cool like that too. I went back through and made my pattern on the opposite side, and I put a necklace string on there, and that is all I really had to do. I really like the way this turned out. It's kind of original and fun, I think. And I incorporated something I had never used before, which was the yarn. I had saw on some Instagram posts people were using yarn to make patterns and stuff on pieces that they were making. And I thought that was a good idea. And please stay tuned. I actually have one more idea for you. So idea number 2, just using the same clay basically. And I'm gonna use some of this solid colored clay. You use whatever color you want. I just thought that this looked good with the clay. You do want your piece to be kind of thick, so you can put your really thin pieces on there. These are just all the pieces that I had cut away from the first project. So I'm going to put those on a piece of scrap paper for now. And some of them I will need to roll out so that they are thinner. You want them to get as thin as possible without being brittle or breaking. Just take your roller and kind of roll it out, just thinning it a little bit. And then just lay it out all over your solid color. You can do it however you want to. Random, or like I'm doing, just laying them out in strips. Once you have them on there, you'll just want to give it a roll so that all of your pieces are stuck together and combined, joined together like they're good long lost friends. Just do a little burnishing there in between a piece of paper. And then you can just flip it over and then cut away all of the excess that is hanging over the top. And voila! It looks pretty cool. I like it. It looks funky. And just whatever pattern you have. I have these little flower shapes. So I thought it would look really cool on there. I'm choosing this one right here. It's got a lot of cool different ones on this little pattern stencil. I'm going to need to make 2 of these. So I'll place my first one on there and roll it out with the roller, making sure that the clay comes up through the stencil opening. Just use the edge of your tissue blade to shave away all the pieces that come up. And basically what you want to do is bring up the solid colored clay from behind it. So if you don't get that happening with your first roll and cut, you can keep going. I had to do it a couple of times, and then eventually my tan colored clay came and shone through. You'll see here, and then I gave it one more final roll so that it has kind of a 3D look. Just remove your stencil. You'll need a circle cutter that is slightly larger than your flower pattern or whatever you're cutting out. Just get it situated on there and you can cut out your shape. And I'm just going to kind of decorate it, and I just went with the flow here, making little dots all around my tan colored flower petals. And I did make a second one, and I thought that this little gem there in the middle would be so cool looking. I love that pink and green and tan colored look. Just put that in the center and then just gently press it into place. You can smooth out the edges after you bake it. You'll need to make a hole at the top. And then be sure to flip it over and make the hole go through the opposite way. That way you have a nice, round, perfect hole. And then directly across from that, down there at the bottom, you'll want to poke a hole through the width of the clay there and put in an eye hook. And I have 2 of mine, and then go ahead and bake that. And I added little danglies at the bottom. They're pink too, just a different shade. I really like the way these came out. I hope you liked them too. I hope you liked the first idea also. Please leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought. And as always, I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!